Ladies and gentlemen, in the description section, Yahoo National Review, China flies 52 military planes into Taiwanese airspace in largest incursion ever. Do not say that an invasion isn't planned or they're not slowly either invading or beginning a blockade. There's a national interest article as well talking about the potential for a blockade. There are other articles that I've put in the description section regarding the possibility of a naval blockade, and if they control the airspace, so all China has to do is control the airspace around Taiwan, have their navy blockade Taiwan from the rest of the world. They wouldn't even have to engage in a direct military confrontation with either jets, from Taiwan or any other country, or the Navy in Taiwan. They would simply have to, all they would simply need to do is blockade the country, control the airspace around Taiwan, and that would prevent the United States and other countries from a Berlin airlift type of response. If you're in the Navy, or if you were a veteran of the Navy or the military, give me your thoughts below. To my super chat, thank you. I cannot do this without you. Everyone subscribe to Eric H526's channel, his YouTube channel, and his Odyssey channel. Mikhail Archangel, hello. Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, what happens if China decides to blockade Taiwan? There's really no military response when it comes to what we can do to protect Taiwan. We're not going to get into a military confrontation directly with China because they have nuclear weapons. So it would be the same issue we faced with the Soviet Union. This is Business Insider. An invasion isn't the only threat from China that Taiwan and the U.S. have to worry about. So tensions around Taiwan have escalated in recent months, with U.S. officials warning of potential China action. Those warnings focus on potential invasion attempt by China, which has increased its military activity in the area, but Taiwan and the U.S. face a threat short of an invasion, a Chinese blockade that could cut Taipei off from the world. Perhaps nowhere in the world are geopolitical tensions higher today than the Taiwan Strait. In the past year, China has toughened its rhetoric towards the self-governed island, which Beijing considers a breakaway province. Chinese forces have conducted a number of live-fire drills that appear directed at Taiwan, and Chinese military flights across the median line in the Taiwan Strait and into Taipei's air defense identification zone have hit record levels. And you look, the effects of a blockade could be disastrous in large part because no one knows how long Taiwan could hold out. There have been no studies on how quickly Taiwan would consume critical materials in a crisis, or on the current status of survivability of peacetime stockpiles, or the potential for relief convoys. Quote, there is no assessment of what might get through a blockade to keep Taiwan alive, what types of materials and what quantities, or what Taiwan's domestic production of food, water supply, and equipment might be under wartime conditions. Henley told the commission, cut off from the world, Taiwan could quickly run out of both military and non-military necessities. Breaking such a blockade would be extremely difficult. China has the largest navy in the world. I thought we have the largest navy with most aircraft carriers, but mostly composed of modern ships with advanced weapons and sensors, according to the Pentagon. China's Navy and Air Force have the largest aviation forces in the region, with some 850 fighters and aircraft. China's Air Force is rapidly catching up to Western Air Forces. They have 60 submarines, my God. And Pentagon maps even show Taiwan is completely covered by China anti-air and anti-ship missiles. So there's no way to defend that. There's no way to defend. There's just no way to defend a blockade. As Taiwan's closest partner, the U.S. can also do things in the short term to help preparation and deterrence. Biden basically gave away Taiwan in the phone conversation they had. In the phone conversation he had with Xi. So, Jennifer, hello. Thank you again for the super chat last segment. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so very much. Also, Ian Moyer, thank you so very much, Ian. I can't thank you enough for the super thanks last segment. Greatly, greatly appreciated, Ian. Thank you. And Jennifer, thank you again. I didn't see the super chat initially. Ian, thank you again. My goodness. Thank you as always, Ian. Thank you. But there's really no way, there's really no way to defend Taiwan, because it wouldn't be like the Berlin airlift, where we had the Air Force, or we had the airspace, control of the airspace to the people who needed the supplies. So how do you Earth would you defend Taiwan in a situation where there's a blockade? There is no. The U.S. could send officials responsible for the region to Taiwan to better understand realities. There's no way at all. And Biden's administration, you can look, has single-handedly They're talking about for 4 years, Trump, our allies, he's undermining the interests of our allies. Nobody has done that more so than Biden. He basically gave away Taiwan to China during a phone call last week, or like a couple of days, or yesterday or the other day. There was Trump and Putin in the Helsinki conference in Finland, and the media was like more hysterical and apoplectic than usual. And they were saying, oh my God, he didn't stand up to Putin. And this was all part of the fever dreams that Democrats had, where they convinced themselves that Facebook ads from Putin altered the course of history. Now you actually have national security. Now you actually need to actually stand up to Xi or to China and say, look, you can't do this for a variety of reasons. We won't allow it to happen, even if you're not serious. Even if you know you're not going to risk a nuclear confrontation. All Biden had to do was simply maybe make peace or apologize to France, get the French ambassador back to the U.S., have a meeting right now in the United Nations Security Council, because China's about to invade. They've already started an invasion. They're not doing this. I mean, what more do they need to write a memo? Does the PLA need to write a memo? What do they need to do? Like, they already sent 150 planes within a very short time period over Taiwanese airspace. 56 in a single day. So what more do they need to do? What more do they need to do? They're telling the world that they're about to officially invade. They've already started an invasion, but they're about to take over Taiwan sooner rather than later. And all they have to do is begin a naval blockade, and that's it. That's all they would have to do. You couldn't stop a naval blockade. And Use radio-controlled torpedo. Joey! Maybe we can call up Sharknado. Radio-controlled torpedoes. Joey! This is the national interest, the coming blockade of Taiwan. Beijing could use a blockade to slowly strangle Taiwan into submission while avoiding or overcoming any realistic American military response. But there is no military response. They have nukes. There is no military response. So I have no clue why you have very smart people, these scholars, saying, well, you know, our military, the U.S. military versus the military of China, that would not ever happen unless it would be the end of the world. Then you'd really have global warming. We will never have a conventional war with anyone that possesses nuclear capabilities. That will never happen. Because that just would never happen. You're looking at a really bad situation that is getting worse every single day. Okay, so this is the nationalinterest.org. Great publication. Since Taiwan's democratization over 30 years ago, the world has seen fit to promote a so-called status quo in which Taiwan's friends pretend it isn't really a country, while Taiwan pretends its problems will disappear if given enough time. In this fantasy of a failed strategy, China was meant to become peaceful, satisfied with wealth, amenable to Taiwan's continued independence, and not at all belligerent. A belligerent bully biding its time to wage a war Taiwan cannot win. Yet here we are, as China's routine warplane intrusions across the strait wear down Taiwan's air force, and its new carrier group performs sweeps near its coast. The military leadership of America, Japan, and Taiwan are starting to speak more openly about the prospect of a Chinese attack on the island. There's nothing that Japan or we could do. There's nothing. What could you do? What can you do? Unfortunately, there seems to be little understanding of just how desperate Taiwan's situation is, and little appreciation of China's likely tactics. Rather than defending Taiwan from a D-Day-style attack, Taiwan and its allies need to be preparing for a possible coming blockade, one which will throttle the island over a period of months or years, and which will open the way to an air campaign that eventually compels the island's surrender. So, what are you going to do? You can't do anything. This is a great article by Simon Leach. At this point, Taiwan's allies will face a stark binary choice: accept defeat and withdraw, leaving Taiwan to its fate, commence sinking Chinese ships, not happening. Option 1, disturbing, though it is seems most likely, as Taiwan's allies gradually abandon it and foreign public loses interest, China will formalize its blockade by cutting off all access by air and sea. Should Taiwan's military commence kinetic efforts to break the blockade, an air campaign will commence over Taiwan using the Chinese Air Force and its array of land-based missiles. So, there's not. I mean, the only way to counter this would be to gain the support of other countries. And, you know, Democrats were talking about how Trump and our allies didn't like Trump. And oh my God. By the way, to my super chat, I can't do this without you. Thank you. If you want to talk about this or any subject that we can talk about, your support is greatly appreciated. There's really no way to counter this other than a broad condemnation, threat of sanctions, but even you can't even threaten economic sanctions at all. The biggest trading partner of the EU is China. So there you go. The biggest trading partner of the EU is China. And in terms of an economic incentive or a way to discourage a blockade or invasion using economics as a tool, that's not possible because the Europe is facing rising energy prices even more so than we are. And their economies are barely trying to rebound. They're doing just as bad, if not worse in some respects. So what kind of leverage do you have? We have no leverage. Mashed potato brains Biden told the world how inept and incompetent we are by not abiding by the Doha Agreement, which is the Doha Agreement stated we had to leave May 1st from Afghanistan. All he had to do was abide by the agreement. He decided not to do so. So, nice. Let's go, Brandon. That is so great. Let's go. Oh. So, Russia deepens China ties with expanded energy exports. The only country that could possibly discourage China from invading Taiwan is Russia, and Democrats have pretty much destroyed any hope of Russia working with us on that issue or that potential issue. So I don't know how you would stop. I mean, this is a serious issue that, of course, nobody is taking seriously in media because, well, nobody's taking it seriously because it's not the infrastructure bill. It's not Biden's infrastructure bill that the National Association of Manufacturers said would cause 1 million jobs to be lost in 2 years, And this goes on. In short, the Chinese military will not require anything near full-spectrum operational parity with America to achieve its goal of isolating Taiwan. Its use of missiles, mines, and drones will keep foreign navies occupied, whilst the sinking of just a handful of fleet replenishment vessels will drastically limit the time adversarial navies can stay on station. It will be Chinese victory through a form of logistical attrition, a whimper, not a bang. Hopefully, this will not turn out to be true, and Beijing will not attempt a blockade in the future. However, preventing this would require a drastic change in military-industrial planning that goes beyond Taiwan, and this is a change that Taiwan and its allies will simply not make before the blockade commences and the whimpering begins. May no one else share the fate of those millions. Wow. Wow, Dr. Simon Leach is a former lecturer at Griffith University. His work focused on the rise of China in the post-Cold War world. Wow. You better believe all of American media is like, whatever. And then this is something that Bernie and AOC just can't tweet about. And they can, maybe. But then the question is, well, why did you stop the entire country from talking about the origins of you-know-what, Democrats? Why did you have to do that? Alberta first! Trump 2024. Thank you, Alberta first. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Mikhail Archangel, hello. Hello, Mikhail, hello. Alberta First, thank you so very much. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Alberta First, thank you. Thank you. To my viewers in Canada, thank you. Thank you, Alberta First. I hope all is well. There's really no there's really no way to there's just no way to protect Taiwan right now, especially with mashed potato brains. It's interesting because you have, like, in the State Department, you have, I was an intern in college at the Foreign Service Institute, which is part of the State Department. And you would have these scholars and these foreign policy experts and scholars, and they would have this basically like a role-playing game or like this Dungeons and Dragons type of scenario where they would try to, create this geopolitical quagmire, this scenario, this confrontation in the world, or, this geopolitical issue. And each of the scholars would be a country. And they would then try to, it was like a, model UN on steroids. And they would try to, predict how each country would react based on their own national interest to a certain geopolitical issue, whether it was like a war or NATO expansion or whatever. It would be interesting what the geniuses at Biden's State Department think. First of all, they're going to be completely blindsided by everything. See, national security has been relegated to Facebook ads and whatever suits the Democratic Party. Whatever is good for the Democratic Party is national security. Democracy. Oh my God, Facebook is allowing things that hurt democracy, which is nobody really has a definition of, apparently, but it's been redefined as whatever is good for the Democratic Party. National security has been relegated to Trump's mean tweets or Trump being mean. That's it. So, it's like we spent 4 years obsessed with everything but national security and everything but economic growth. Like we had before 2020, we had a great economy, and Democrats were obsessed with Trump Russia because they couldn't possibly just give the man a chance. They couldn't. There was a resistance from day one. There's no resistance with Biden, by the way, because nobody knows what he stands for. And everybody knows that, like, he's not, an actual leader, so you can't really resist him. You just look in disgust and frustration at whatever it is he's told to do. So there's not a person on the planet that says, wow, this man has vision. This, like, what on earth does Biden really want? Do you think that he's read, like, the hundreds and hundreds of pages of the infrastructure bill? How much you want to bet the man hasn't read his own infrastructure bill? Do you think that he knows, like, the next calamity, the next national security issue? He already failed. It was one of the Afghanistan evacuation, which, if he just abided by the Doha Agreement, would have worked out 1,000,000 times better. You don't use the T-ban, we'll call them that, as security. You don't use them as security around the airport. If you use the Taliban as security, you are the worst administration or the worst president of all time, second only to Bush. Bush was the worst president of all time. Biden is the second worst. You don't give them names of Americans. And we just found out the people who committed the atrocity, the Taliban allowed to commit that atrocity. 13 American lives were lost. Those American soldiers should be alive. But, that's what Biden, his first major test, he failed miserably. You don't go ahead and give names of Americans to the Taliban, and you don't go ahead and use them for security to help us evacuate. It makes no sense at all. You're literally leaving because because it was a counterinsurgency war and conflict. It was impossible to actually defeat militarily the adversaries completely in a counterinsurgency conflict. So we're leaving because we couldn't completely destroy them. And then we use them as security outside of the airport we're using to evacuate 120,000 people. That's the logic of mashed potato brains and bumbling Blinken. So, it's like they don't, there's no common sense at all, but the way they think is, well, we have media. They have almost universally favorable media coverage, so they're like, well, you know what? We can get away with anything. And that's their mentality. Their mentality is they can get away with anything. Adventurous Backroad, hello. So, and Russia supplies Europe with 30 to 40% of its natural gas. So, all of our adversaries or rivals, they're increasing in prestige and strength or influence. We're decreasing in our influence, especially when the stock market crashes. We're going to have even less influence, and the stock market will crash, just a matter of when. Oh, by the way, subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That'll be below in the description. But it's pretty unbelievable what's taking place in such a short time period. I mean, it's almost as if we decided to end all economic activity last year. Yo, that's right, we did. So, what did you think? What did they think was going to happen? How could you shut down all economic activity when cancer and heart disease ended the lives of more Americans? This is a fact according to government data, the same data Democrats worship. So if cancer, why did they downplay? Because this is their mentality. Why did they downplay cancer and heart disease? I mean, that's their way of thinking. Trump downplayed. They didn't. More Americans lost their lives. From cancer and heart disease. And you still have Democratic-run states at the highest per capita rates in the country. Still. Above Florida, and they're going after DeSantis, but they never touch. They don't even go anywhere near Phil Murphy media. Like, Chris Hayes said nothing about Andrew Cuomo getting an Emmy for putting infected people in nursing homes. But you get this like nauseating, sappy, morally superior look. It's just this look that every wonderful, beautiful, morally superior liberal has. This look like, just look like. That's their look. That's the look. I'm so moral. Like, they just their whole thing is like, their whole thing is feeling morally superior. So when, God forbid, China invades Taiwan or blockades Taiwan, Jennifer, as long as we have Brandon, we'll survive. Exactly, Jennifer. Exactly. What is it? Let's go, Brandon. Roger Rabbit. Hello. As long as we have Brandon, we'll survive. Exactly. Jennifer Olmsted. Jennifer, hello. Thank you again. Thank you. Lisa Burkett. Lisa, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer and Lisa, thank you. It's just, we'll wrap this up in about 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a shame. I never thought, I mean, this is like going to be, what as they say, like, oh, rich people problems or wealthy people problems, kind of. But I never thought in my lifetime I would see the decline of the United States of America. They Democrats were saying, like, Trump was doing that, but we were literally advancing. Like, we literally were making strides in terms of foreign policy with the Doha Agreement, and if implemented, would have been a very good thing. Implemented, like, in the manner it was meant to be implemented. First president to step foot in North Korea. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea stated Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. The Abraham Accords. President Trump on a global stage was infinitely better than Biden. And his thing was they turned this around into like some kind of nightmarish, but he was saying America first. Okay, you could say that, that we don't like the way that sounds. He could have changed the top. You could use another phrase, but his thing was Trump let everybody know, I want to make the United States even stronger. Not the way Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld we learned that never-ending wars don't work. We learned that. Counterinsurgency wars cannot be. There's no victory. There's no definition of victory. We can't win those. Nobody can. The Soviets, the French, nobody can. Instead of building upon the economic success of Trump during his first 3 years, and they always come up with these lame, like, well, in the last 3 years of President Obama's administration, when there was a lunar eclipse and, Halley's Comet, and they always, like, slice and dice statistics. It's like, well, you didn't have 8 years. Trump only had 3 years, and then the fourth year was taken away from him. But we were doing very well economically. We were stronger as a country. In the first 3 years of Trump, we were stronger as a country. That's without a doubt. The Democratic Party was weaker, more paranoid and apoplectic and hysterical than ever. They tried to take the country down with them with this manic media spin pertaining to Trump, these lies. Nobody lied more than the fact checkers who checked facts while ignoring the grandiose lies of Trump Russia. He never worked with Russia. You'd have to be an imbecile to believe a bunch of liars telling you that Trump worked with Russia because they feel he did. And now there's the Durham probe. Nobody was indicted for working alongside Russia or conspiring with Putin. Okay? But last year, Democrats and media and every Democratic politician forced an end to all economic activity. If you wanted to tank your standing in the world, it's almost as if they wanted to do that. If you wanted to just in 1 year take a global superpower and expedite its decline, you would do exactly what Democrats said. And don't say that you had to, because Sweden did not. Other countries too didn't do what we did. And I don't care if like France or the UK or Spain or Italy did what we did. It doesn't matter. There are multinational organizations or multilateral organizations. And it's like those multilateral organizations those organizations around the world speak to our government agencies and speak to other government agencies, and so they come up with the most logical and rational and wonderful plan for things. And of course, it didn't work out. It only expedited our decline as a country. So you ended all economic activity in a year where cancer and heart disease ended the lives of more Americans than you know what. And then you still obsessed over it a year later. And now you don't have the money, you don't have the economy, you don't have the will to protect anyone. So if China was going to invade officially, they've already pretty much started. That's why I'm reporting on it and nobody else is. You would do so now, when we're at our lowest point in decades. We are unfortunately at our lowest point in decades. You can thank the morally superior Democratic Party and wonderful morally superior liberals for all of this. It is 100%, it will be 100% Biden's fault when all of this goes down, and there's no possible diplomatic response. France has already withdrawn its ambassador. I mean, did you ever think that would happen? They made a whole big deal about Trump and our allies, and France withdraws its ambassador because of Biden, because Biden couldn't wait to sell Australia submarines. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. Thank you so very, very much. To my super chat, thank you. I can't thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, tell your friends about this channel. I am talking about issues that are serious issues, utilizing, reputable sources. The National Interest article, the Yahoo article is right there, or Business Insider article also is right there. It's where people say, it's not really in Taiwanese airspace. Oh, yes, it is. And it's a record number of jets from China. And like I said, a blockade could take place. And I think they're probably going to do something like that. I think they will blockade China before they either invade or they'll just keep blockading Taiwan, sorry. I think they will. I think China will blockade Taiwan. And once that happens, bumbling Blinken and mashed potato brains Biden will have no response, because their idea of national security has been Facebook ads for 4 years. Oh, and I love this. The Facebook whistleblower. Oh, my God. Such courage. The testimony started off with, I think that Facebook chose profits over democracy. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Who knows what that means? Basically, democracy is anything that helps Democrats. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless. To my super chat, thank you. Eric and Luke, thank you. Everybody here. Mikhail, thank you. JG, thank you. Mikhail Archangel, thank you. Everybody, have a great evening. God bless. See you tomorrow, everybody. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will have a live stream at 3 p.m. Pacific. So I'll have an early live stream and then a later. I'll have 2 live streams, one at 3 p.m. Pacific and one a bit later in the evening. So 3 p.m. Pacific, be here for the live stream. 3 p.m. Pacific. Ladies and gentlemen, be here 3 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, which will be Friday, October 8th. Thanks, everybody. See you at 3 p.m.